So we will be beginning with the first panel discussion. The topic for the discussion is Rethinking Marketing Measurement for the Next Decade. So may I please call upon Mr. Nishant Arora, Senior Vice President Marketing, Netcore Cloud, who will be moderating this session for us today. Please welcome Mr. Nishant Arora. And I do have the esteemed privilege of calling on the panelists for this session. May I call upon Mr. L.V. Krishnan, Chief Executive Officer, TAM Media Research. I would like to call upon Ms. Shefali Khalsa, Marketing Head, TransUnion CIBIL. Please keep the hands going together, please. Mr. Shrinivas Khanolkar, Head of Digital Business and Marketing, Mirae Asset. And lastly, but not the least, Ms. Sneha Batreja, Marketing Director, Head of Growth and Performance Marketing, PayU. The stage is yours.
This is a most interesting topic. So this is an interesting topic that we have, right? Like, and the best one to start the day, marketing attribution. Or this is how everybody on this panel gets reviewed every quarter. Or why we have jobs, right? Like, you have to justify, like, hey, you spend so much. What are you showing for it? So, and I think it was Ogilvy who said it many, many years ago, like half of my marketing dollars are wasted and just don't know which one. And honestly, right, like that continues to be the case today, right? Like right now we have improved our measurement, but knowing like, hey, you made this purchase decision, was this because of this ad or that Instagram influencer that you follow, and just figuring out the customer journey so hard, but every marketer in this room and every marketing leader in the room, that determines our career, right? Like if you have a good quarters where the business is growing and marketing is generating a lot of pipe, it's fun. And it's fun to have this fun panel, right? Like with some people who've done industry leading work in terms of giving the metrics to people with sales background moving into marketing. And like I'm sure, right? Like I want to start with you, Shrinivas. Like you would have criticized marketing a bit, quite a bit in sales, which is a typical sales versus marketing conflict. Now that you've come to marketing side, what has changed for you, and what is that one number that you felt was bullshit, like on your day one, given your sales background?
Yeah, so straight off, you're gonna fire at me, right? First question is like heavily loaded.
Sales marketing camaraderie is the best thing, right?
I think with the advent of social marketing and digital marketing, I think that line is sort of blurred now because you got to help whatever you can. And while sales can go and convert and give the message out, yeah, when I was on the sales side, it was always about what has been given to us. You would go back and probably add 10 more layers to it and then go and talk from a sales point of view. Now it's about reversing that into one frame and one message, right? But in terms of if there is one metric, I would say that, which probably we should not give too much importance is the vanity matrix, right? How much views have come in, how much likes have come in. I think what's key to that is what is the share count, what actionables have it done. Now it's interesting, there are new placements which are coming in where you can straight away go to the product and engage on the ad itself. I think these are much more interesting because it helps you do the conversions much better compared to the traditional lens, which was more about awareness. Instagram completely has changed the game where the awareness volumes have really gone up. If you could partner with the right guy with the right messaging, it does reach out a lot. There's so many great businesses which have just been built on Instagram coming out of it, right? But I represent a business which there is no touch and feel, right? It's finance. So whatever you invest, you're only going to get the material out of it, maybe 3 years, 4 years down the line, where you know what it is. So our business becomes more about trust, which means you have to be on a consistent messaging parameter rather than keeping innovating in terms of what you want to convey. The methods can change, but I think underlying you need to still convey the same message, which is about building trust with people.
Interesting. LV, like also hear from you. You built the measurement currency for over 26 years. Now, like a lot of people have been allowed to build their own models, share the attribution models for everybody, right? Like, would love your take, right? Like when everybody's reporting a number, who do you trust and why? And in fact, like for the audience, it would be interesting to know, right? Like the type of data, like give us a little bit of background, and then maybe you talk about, right, like trust in data and how do you, different methodologies and different readability from that.
Yeah, I think times have changed actually. Consumers are evolved out. They are sprinkled across multiple platforms at a given moment of time actually. So therefore the task of a marketer has become even more tougher than what it was something like around 15 years back actually. So when I look at it from today's perspective as what it was yesteryears back, the one significant thing remains the same actually, which is connecting points across for brands with consumers. Earlier, all connected points was measured in a one singular way, that is attribution of that particular one congregating into a kind of a single awareness score leading to a brand lift in terms of sales or on disposition to purchase action. Today, you're not able to attribute that channel that is aligning to the final destination, which is your attribution to sales actually. That's largely because of the fact that the data has become first-party data, and bulk of that census data resides within that particular platform. It's unable to be seen in a public domain where you could actually congregate and put it back into, assimilating it into sales aspect. So therefore, what the government has done, it's trying to maneuver towards a situation where you're able to bring that into public level by bringing policies which are aligned to putting a framework where data can actually look from different angles and brought into one table for measuring the impact of a communication that happens actually. While that happens, I think it's up to the industry, and IMAI has taken the first step forward, and I think Aditya is in this room, who heads one of the committee, to put a standard framework towards how the measurement should be governed in nature. Because what it means is that the framework needs to be distilled to putting a right accreditation, the right auditing, the right transparency. And those elements will bring in what is important, which is the real currency, which is called trust on that particular data. While today, everybody can still, some of the platforms do give out certain amount of first-party data to the advertiser and say the fact that, hey, here is this communication, this is how much the impressions it has governed, this is probably the outcome from a sales perspective, specifically in an e-com platform, etc. But that's still a first-party data, which is still a questionable in nature. So any third-party data that comes into play that can actually bring in a clarity into the entire thing needs to be transparent, for which the seal of trust needs to be there, actually. So industry bodies like IMAI or a broadcasting body like IBDF, all these are the bodies that actually will start looking at and saying, hey, here is this data coming in, here is what we have evaluated in it from a accreditation perspective, from a transparency perspective, from an audit perspective, etc. And therefore, from a 5-star perspective, here are 2 stars given in. This is the progressive forward for future. And therefore, this is how you could use this data with that limitations placed in well to the user.
Nice. So let me ask you a follow-up question, right? Like you called the new policy forward-looking. If you had a chance to revisit some parts of it, what would you have changed?
I couldn't change much in that, actually. It's not about changing what has been put in as a framework. What I could put in as a guardrails, actually, extra guardrails. For example, what are the things that are limiting today in this particular database that's coming to the market in public view? And therefore, who are the best users who can make use of it, and what are the limitations that it has that others need to safeguard, actually? Okay. So those guardrails are very, very important in nature. And once those guardrails are put in play, users from the varied end can make use of it based on his needs or his wants, actually.
Interesting. Shefali, I want to come to you, and like you're one of the marketeers that are heavily investing in brand marketing today, right? Like podcasts, and you're also doing a lot on performance marketing. So I would love for you to talk about how do you justify the spends you're making on brand marketing, and also react to him when he said that impressions and likes you should not look at.
That's a very interesting question. Thanks, Nishant, for that. So you rightly said, and all the fellow panelists also touched upon a word, which is trust. And I think trust is something that we all build as a marketer across the BFSI. And like you rightly also mentioned that, you know, we are heavily invested in the brand comm. Of course, podcast is one IP that we have created, and we are driving it well. While the world looks at us more of a, you know, B2B brand, but we are also equally a relatable D2C brand, because CIBIL score is something which is like a synonymous to a credit score. You know, an auto fellow, when I ask him, do you understand a credit score? He'll say, no, what is that? You know, but when I say CIBIL score, he'll definitely relate that, हाँ, मेरे को loan लेने के लिए ये ज़रूरी है. You know, so that's the understanding and the relatability that the CIBIL score has, and which is why I would say it's a tougher job as a CMO that to balance between the B2B brand and the D2C brand, because there's always a China wall between the two. And I would say as a CMO, I do orchestrate between the brand comm, performance marketing, and the member engagement, because to also manage and support the adoption at the B2B level. You know, like the fellow members also mentioned about the impressions, the matrix that we can never get away from those matrix. And I would say I come from that generation where we have seen the evolution from GRPs to number of followers we used to, you know, measure as matrix. From there to MarTech evolution, the complete evolution and the inception to the evolution today. And, you know, we talk about MMM, which is multimedia mixed in the marketing. And I would say while, you know, as a CMO or a CMCO, it is a must to have an always-on brand campaign. At the same time, always-on performance marketing. But there are multi-layered media mix that are a must today. Unfortunately, I would say there is no single funnel that we have to measure anymore, because the consumers are no more in a single line standing. There are multi-layered influences that we drive in terms of the MarTech. And I would say the last click attribution is gone at those days, I would say, because it's more like giving the whole credit to the goalkeeper who's just touching the ball at the last minute. So, of course, as a CMO today, the approach has shifted from what's working from there to what is worth funding, you know, because there are multi-layered media that we need to manage, and even beyond the extension of the digital marketing. So, yeah, hope that answers.
Sure. I would love your reaction also on Shrinivas' comment.
I think you've taken that out of context. I meant views. I didn't mean followers. Of course, you need followers, okay, right? And followers are going to come organically. So once that comes in, your reach automatically increases.
True.
That whole thing that, you know, I added 10 million views for this video, does it really translate to something? That's the point I was trying to make.
No, I agree with you on a very serious note.
Just to add on to those points, finally, everything is interrelated in nature. Okay, when he says views, okay, it also comes down to saying not only viewing of the video, but also viewing of the ad, actually, or the communication. From there, it leads to liking or disliking, actually. The likeness usually leads to a follower, okay, and followers leads to a kind of a loyalty. Loyalty, if the communication is appealing, translates to trial of a brand, okay, and if the trial of the brand is successful in nature, there's a market share that automatically gets built up. And we have seen quite a few FMCG brands in many of the cases that we have done, studies we have done, where that interrelationship is coherently existing over a period of time, actually. It's just that the different cohorts come into playing around with the communication and interacting with the communication and the brand later on at different points of time, actually, based on what the communication and the platform that's used.
Interesting. Sneha, let's not talk to you about, like, you have very interesting metrics that we found yesterday. Let's prep for this. Your transactions grew 49% and your revenue grew 13%. Your dashboards were celebrating, but your P&L was not. So what do you do when your metrics and business disagree? And how do you handle that?
So interestingly, this is a true story, right? So in marketing, we all, get our own awards and we kind of walk past, and it's until the time we reach the CFO's office and he's like, hey, this didn't translate into business. So what are you celebrating for, right? True story there. I would recount with what Shrinivas said is that, vanity metrics are important, but as a marketer, we need to move ahead from only ensuring that we get attribution, but we are also for accountability. Right? So if our transactions grew, which means that the audience that we got in were the right set of audience, right? Which means that we won on adoption and engagement. But if that didn't translate into equivalent or corresponding revenue, which means that we have to look at what kind of mix did we get, right? So it could be a mix of a lot of pricing, the merchant mix, people resorting to lower margin payment modes, because that's generally not in your control. But as a marketer, what you do is that you go back and you say that, okay, I did win on my vanity metrics and the places that I wanted to from a marketing standpoint, but you need to take it on as a challenge as to how do you, the penultimate goal is how do you increase the customer lifetime value. And until you don't do that, so that's the kind of challenge that we have to look at. So business metrics will evolve around vanity. The vanity metrics need to evolve around the business metrics, actually. It's not the other way around.
Completely agree. I would love for the panel to also react to it. This is a very powerful line. I think two of the panelists agree. I would love for both of you also to react, like vanity metrics leading to business. Like, there's a power in that. So.
Sure. I partly agree with her. Definitely that, with the vanity metrics being essential to drive, and the other way around also, the business, how much the impact basically now that we are being questioned as a CMO and the board also is that did that instead of how many people saw that, instead of that how much was that even able to move the needle? That's the question that we definitely we all answer in the boardroom, and which is where I would say the just the matrix of the number of clicks is not really relevant anymore. It is more of that, in fact, more of acquisition, more than acquisition, it is more of the retention, that how much consumer retention you are ensuring to have.
There are different cases that come to mind, which is used matrices in different ways, actually. For example, there was a brand which was actually doing a corporate campaign, actually. Its entire essence of the communication was the fact that I'm a global company, but there are some very interesting facets of this particular company which many people don't know about. Like, for example, I may be known for engineering, but do you know the fact that I'm in chemical? I may be known for aero, but may not be known for commercial vehicles, actually. So now, his entire, here, everything is not business related in nature, okay? His point of view was the fact that if I'm able to create that overall awareness about we being on a multifold, category level company, the equity value of that organization is going to grow to a bigger level, actually. So it's all about, therefore, brand equity rather than actually conversion to market share numbers, or ultimately, of course, brand equity will lead to market share numbers, but the objective was completely clear in nature. So when the communication was played out in different media, the evaluation metric was very clear, okay? And therefore, all the metrics that was tracked on the brand lift studies or ad campaign tracks, etc., was all related to what is the volume of jump that we're seeing for those awareness scores for those new categories in nature. On the other hand, there was a new product that was getting launched, a variant that is getting launched by a regular FMCG company, actually. And in that, the idea was the fact that this variant is going to start hitting out at the local competitors that are existing in one local market in nature with a price differentiation heavily skewed towards promotions, actually. So immediately, offtakes was a key thing, actually. And therefore, every element of communication that was tracked was leading to saying that, am I bettering market share numbers against that local competitor? And every point increase was attributable to the communication happening on that side.
Wow, fascinating. All right. Shrinivas, I want to come to you because you also have a very interesting business where your marketing numbers are public. And I don't know if there are investors who are out there looking at marketing spends to make decisions. And given the fact that like your marketing numbers are public, like, do you have to defend your spends more broadly? And what does that change about your approach?
See, when you're in business of managing money, it's all about investors are always going to come back and ask you that, how much you've delivered returns over it, right? So that's the first metric which goes out. Now, if your returns are good, there's automatically an organic pull for you. If they are okay, then obviously you need to go out and talk more about your brand and to make it available, visible for many people. But it's a continuous process because eventually, if your P&L is not going to support, you mentioned that the numbers are like more transparent for us. That's largely because it affects our basis points on the revenue bit. That's largely tracked by the capital market analysts, which are looking at the stock performance and overall industry category. But for us, it's more important that does people at large, when our overall penetration level is about 10-12%, do people at large know this brand exists in that category, right? I think that is the more critical aspect that we need to deliver, because once the awareness goes up and if your returns are matching up to what their expectations are, then the business will flow in. If not, then you have to look at acquisition strategies, or I think Krishnan here mentioned about brand equity. So brand equity will largely come in when you want to let everybody know that you exist in this category and you're going to do, you're launching new products, or there's something on our webpage which exists about it, then you go and talk about it. But the moment, the measurable outcome comes in when is your market share moved? Is your overall turnover moved? Is your gross sales moved? That is more important. From a marketer's perspective, there are two aspects, especially in our business. One is to create awareness and get people to come to you. Second is, when they come in, of course, if the performance is good of the products, they will retain, they will add more. But if you find that there is a slip there, then how do you re-engage with them? I think these are the two things, at least in the financial markets, which need to be looked upon.
Interesting. Sneha, let's come back to you, right? Like you've written in some of the writings that you've done about the team needs to feel safe to report on what's real, right? And how do you drive that culture change to have like the attribution not resort to? I think one of the unanimous things on the panel is not to look at vanity metrics, but to look at what's real, right? And what's the needle mover for the business, while some days, right, like the team, if they're not feeling safe, they may start talking about, I think the vanity metrics are spoken about when we are trying to defend some of the things. And how do you drive that culture change to have those honest conversations?
Yeah. Nishant, I learned this lesson early on in my career, right? I recently joined an organization and I was made to present to the founder chairman. And I made a presentation which had all the graphs going upwards, and I believe that, the only job I had was to reassure him that everything is under control. And he's told me one thing that I haven't forgotten till date, saying that you've been taught to just show things in a good way, right? I mean, all the good things, and that's how you showcase. So he says that don't do that, okay? Give me the reality and I'll decide whether it's good, bad, or ugly. So you don't do that decision. And that is one thing that I've learned about leadership, right? In today's day and time, what we are doing is we are celebrating certainty, we are punishing surprises, And inherently, we are teaching people that you need to actually not report reality, but you need to report what's good, right? So what I tell my team is that you don't judge emotions. You just present what's the real picture. Because if we don't do that, right, then organizations are building strategies on unfiltered truth. So we're actually teaching people as to, you filter reality and that's how you present it. So there's a saying which says that, let the bad news take the elevator and the good news can take the stairs. So if you give the bad news first, we still have time that we can mitigate it.
Interesting. Definitely stealing that funnel is a very interesting line. Bad news via the elevator. Yeah. So now let's talk about trust, right? So you have a very interesting business where you are driving the trust in the economy. Like you give a single number and that will determine the rate of interest that people would get. And attribution has the same problem, right? Like how do you build trust for the numbers that marketing team is presenting? Would love your take on it, especially given like that's the primary business your company's engaged in. So.
Sure. I think, Nishant, you are bang on. It's a very different industry in a very different segment. The credit bureau is something very rare in this economy also, while being a backbone of the credit ecosystem is what I can say. And marketing for that itself is also a very unique proposition. So like I mentioned that we do balance between the B2B brand proposition as well as the D2C brand. And on the D2C side, while we spoke about that, the metrics are definitely on the performance marketing, the metrics keep evolving and there are multi-layered metrics that we drive. But when we talk about whether the needle has moved or not, again, it is also a multi-layered impact that we measure. It is not just that how many consumers have taken the paid subscription, because as a trusted brand, like you said, it is a synonym. Like CIBIL score is a synonym to the credit score, like I mentioned. There are averagely about 3 to 4 lakh consumers who take their free annual credit report. And I would also encourage all of you to keep a tap on your credit profile, because while it is a free report that I'm encouraging, not a paid subscription here, but this is the evolution of today's consumer, that they are well aware about their, not just a credit profile, but it is more of a financial health that they want to keep a tap. I'll give that credit to most of the e-commerce and those fintechs also, that today's consumers are evolving day by day. So coming to the matrix layer also, when we say that the needle has moved, what is the impact that we have created? It is not just the paid subscription that the consumers are buying, but are we creating that much of, are we increasing the level of awareness to the consumers so that they are more aware of their financial health, and at the same time also ensuring that there are lesser disputes that they raise on our website? Yeah, because we being the leader in the industry, pioneer in the credit ecosystem also, unfortunately the needle on the dispute side is also keep rising, which is an unfortunate part. But that also becomes my matrix from the marketing side, that how well are we driving the consumer awareness to reduce that dispute level also.
Ellie, would love for you to add to the trust element, because I think you're also in the business of trust. So.
Yeah, I think trust is the most important thing in any data that comes out, actually. To that, what you add in is a layer of transparency and a layer of audit, okay, external audit, actually. So when these two mix together and you're able to solve, as rightly Shefali said, you're resolving all disputes openly and clearly and through third-party audits in nature, I think automatically the trust gets built up. It's not built overnight. Nobody is looking at a perfect system in nature. And therefore, it needs to evolve with time, actually. Like, for example, the best example I could give you is IMAI, actually. Okay? In the digital side, there's a vacuum on trust on the data that is coming out from different sources in nature. So what IMAI has done is they have created a committee. So while there's a framework that is existing from the government, they created a committee that is looking at saying that what are the standards that are being used by different data providers that are providing information about ad campaigns to advertisers on digital platforms. And over a period of time, that's headed by Dr. Aditya Save, representing IAMI, and he and his team actually is going down to the depths of each of these service providers and seeing whether those are fulfilling the certain conditions that are required for good data usage in the industry. It's not that one is looking for perfection in this exercise, but at least if everybody knows clearly that this is a standard in which it's operating in, just like a CIBIL score, you have a IAMI score on where many of those data is ranking in nature. For the user of that particular data, it becomes very easy to pick and choose and trust that output to say this is actually the effective delivery of his campaign happened on a particular digital platform, which then he can use it to do his MMAs as well as different modeling, other modeling exercises to impute what his impact score is on the sales side.
Interesting, thanks. All right, so let's move to the next section. I'll state like marketing was always supposed to be a science and an art, right? So as marketing analytics or marketing measurements gets more analytical, are we really outsourcing our thinking to the dashboards? And the second follow-up question I would have is, like, would love to hear your stories where when you have disagreed with the dashboards, but still done what you think is right. Because end of the day, marketers is as much science as it is art. So would love for any of you to react to it.
Actually, I'd like to say marketing was a science and an art before. Currently, the way we are dealing with, it's just commerce. So marketing is equal to commerce. It needs to yield results, right? Having said that, dashboards are, it's a great way of presenting, what is happening, right? So dashboards can only tell you it is what it is. Okay, you still need a marketer in the room to ask what, why, and what next can happen. Right? So while the automation and the heavy duty of an analytic guy in the MIS guy in the team has reduced to a great deal, but the marketer's job hasn't changed, right? If anything, because he has to actually prove to have commerce at the end of the day, it's quite a tough one.
True. Anybody else would like to react to it, or like talk about your decisions that you've taken?
I'd like to add here. I completely agree with Sneha on that. While dashboards definitely matters, and that's the day-to-day thing that we look up to and we discuss with the teams to improve, and also the campaign optimization that we do. But at the same time, we also balance as a marketer, because the trust part that we say, and as a CMO, I would say we always have to orchestrate between the brand performance marketing and the engagement, especially for me, for the B2B side, the member engagement definitely matters, and which is why I would say if we were only depending on the dashboards and the math that we put across, that how much the revenue has been churned, or the ROI or the CAC, etc. The certain campaigns like Think Different, like Apple's campaign, would have never been shaped. So I would say as a CMO, we should always balance that out, and I would say that also brings a surrogate way of driving the raising the brand level of brand equity level, and thereby also driving the revenue in terms of the performance marketing. Because I would say, again, from the CIBIL brand perspective, while we are a TransUnion CIBIL, but in India, I would say we are known more as CIBIL. So with that brand, definitely there is a benefit in terms of the B2B adoption as well as the D2C adoption as well.
I think today, in the environment, the level to which the data is coming into the marketer's hand, like for example, the first party data, okay, is very, very granular in nature. Okay. Now, that's why I liked Sneha's point about connecting everything to commerce, actually. Because at the end of the day, you can connect it back to commerce because of the granularity. Now, it also allows you to join databases together, actually, okay, from a third party and a first party data together. For example, one of the campaigns that we're evaluating, actually, was largely on 2 digital platforms, which is streaming platforms. Now, over there, the third party gave us information about when the campaign was run and on which platform it happened, actually. Okay. The first party gave us information about the content on which it was running and the audiences who actually watched it. Okay. Now, the singular meeting point for both those things, those two databases, the third party and the first party, was the IDs, okay, and at the same time, the date and time stamping actually. Now, by linking those two together in nature, what you could attribute to was the audiences who watched that particular content, saw the ad. This was the kind of reach and frequency that the campaign actually earned at the end of the day, or the impressions that it earned today. And then connecting back to the first party, those IDs, on an e-com platform, you could convert it into saying how many of them went to the e-com platform to get into a conversion into sales, actually, the outcome. So therefore, this can be constructed purely because the first party and the third party data that's available is scalable in nature as well as granular in nature. And so far, that's the advantage that the marketer has now. And as we look at the future, this is how things are going to roll out too, actually, where the third party and the first party data are going to be mixed together to bring about an outcome exercise.
If you don't mind, I just want to add one interesting point on that. And very rightly said, LV, the third party definitely has become like the go-to thing beyond the first party data. The first party data, while we have all, like I said, I come from that generation that we have always depended on the first party data and so on. But today, with the DPDP Act also coming in, with the privacy laws, governing so much of performance marketing, the first party data is no more a marketing asset. I would say it is more like an asset sheet in the balance sheet of the company, and because it also brings in a lot of responsibility to guard that. And at the same time, I would say from a CMO lens, the trick is that how well we use this first-party data, because in most of the companies, this first-party data may be residing in silos and 6 different touch points. How do we connect it well and use it well for what kind of outcome that we want matters more.
Okay. So we have 4 more minutes, so I'll just do a rapid fire. What do you think would change in marketing measurement over the next decade? So
AI engagement.
I think attention, engagement of course comes in, but once you gain in attention of that communication, engagement is automatically going to follow.
Shrinivas.
I think people will look for authenticity. In the whole world of AI. I think there will be more conversations. I think time is going to come soon where people are going to ask that question, are you a bot or a human? If you're a bot, just cut the call. If you're a human, I'll talk to you. So we need to keep that balance.
True. Sneha?
I think we'll know in time whether the entire hype about the AI thing is actually, is it a bubble that's going to burst, or it's going to boom into something which we'll know, right?
All right. My next rapid fire question is, what is that one metrics that you are so passionate about and you believe like this is my, the most important metrics that I want to look at every day I wake up?
I think as we said, commerce actually. So conversion to business metrics.
Conversion.
Shrinivas?
Brand equity leading to conversion.
I think like I said, right, I cannot contradict my own statement, saying that we can all have our own vanity metrics, but at the end of the day, it needs to result into some moolah and some dhanda for the company. And finally, that's the North Star metric that everybody would want to go for.
All right.
But that's the one which will get applauded and rewarded also.
Okay. So what percentage of your marketing measurement today has been impacted by, in a good way or a bad way, by the advancements in AI?
I think it's a 50-50 actually. Okay. Nobody's yet able to pinpoint exactly saying the fact that this has contributed to the goodness or the badness of it actually. It's a 50-50 at this point in time.
I would say it keeps evolving as we move on.
So AI is changing a lot of stuff, right? So by the time you have deciphered what you need to take the next action, there is something new which is coming in. So most important aspect is then look at the baseline at what is the key metric that you want to be like. I don't think the evaluation of that matrix can change.
True.
But at the bottom of it, maybe Mr. Krishnan can add a little bit. At the bottom of it, it's the same stuff, right? It's just being presented in a different way, and it's being deciphered into multiple different parameters and presented. But at the end of it, it's still about whether the customer is going to come and transact with you or not.
So I think, all the metrics that have been presented to us, right? They are like the blocks which are having that domino effect. You want to click one of them and see what's happening, but in the process, you've actually made all the blocks fall down, right? So either it's a pretty site to look at, and then you can make sense of what's happening in the data and what it's resulting for you at the business, or else it's happened too fast and too soon that you really didn't know what happened. So I would actually reckon with LV saying that it's actually a 50-50. You're still kind of figuring out as to what's happening there.
All right. Thank you all for the lovely panel. Loved a lot. I hope, the audience learned a lot as well. So thanks for joining us. Back to you, moderator.